There are hundreds of bills moving through Congress right now, and most Americans have no idea what's actually in them. But a few of these laws could reshape your family, your freedom, and your faith in ways that last for generations. I'm Drenda, and this is Drenda On Guard. Let's get into it. Before we jump in, take a second to like and subscribe. These are the kinds of episodes big tech doesn't want seen, and we're going to keep sharing truth no matter the cost. Now let's talk about the 5 laws every Christian should be watching in 2025. One is the REINS Act, H.R. 277. This House bill would stop unelected federal agencies from creating sweeping rules without congressional approval. Why does this matter? Because agencies like the Department of Education, HHS, and the IRS have been used to quietly push woke ideology and anti-faith policies behind the scenes. This act restores power to elected officials where it should be, people that you put in office, accountable to you, making it harder for unelected bureaucrats to punish people of faith through red tape. This is about accountability, and I believe for Christians that this matters more than ever. It's how funding has been happening on the sidelines to all these organizations like Planned Parenthood and others, and ideologies have been pushed through that. And yet, these were not bills that went through Congress. This was not congressional approval for this spending. It was done through the bureaucracy, so I support this bill. The Protecting Kids on Social Media Act, Senate Bill 1291. This bipartisan bill aims to ban children under 13 from social media and require parental consent for users under 18. Now, people have differing thoughts on this. On the surface, it could be online safety, which I do believe we need some online safety. I think it's ridiculous what is being allowed to be done with social media. Ideas that are not free speech, but they are attacks on people's identity, on their lives, on their businesses. This is not right. This is not American. And kids are getting hold of information that could encourage them to do awful things with their life, challenges, TikTok, we've all seen those things happen. So, but there's also the concern on the other side of it, does this age verification, could this possibly work to open doors to more governmental controlled digital IDs? So that's where we get into a little bit of an issue there. And sometimes those that are driving these agendas want to pull out conservative concerns to get all of us to throw up our hands and say, oh, no, we don't want that. And they can manipulate that. So it's very important. We're wise as serpents, harmless as doves. We don't want kids being, ideologies being pressured and pushed on them through social media, little children getting hold of their parents' phones and sitting there watching things they should never see. And there's absolutely no guide rails about social media. The lies they can tell, the things they can spin, the agendas they can push, the appeal to kids' identity. Epoch Times just put out an article saying that children who are on phones have much higher rates of suicide, depression, brokenness, ideologies, and identity crises. And so children being on phones and seeing, particularly that's where they go, to social media, is dangerous. I go on record as saying so. And I think it's dangerous for adults because many adults are being led astray by agendas and ideologies. But how do we support the protection of children, which Christians, we all believe in that, and the online harm without having privacy trade-offs that could be a future misuse of this kind of infrastructure? Protecting children should never lead to increased surveillance of you and I and take away our rights or our freedoms. But freedom of speech is not to destroy a child's life. It's not to push lies and agendas. It's not to destroy people's identity, their businesses, their livelihood, and their lives. And so we do need guidelines. And we have a whole big problem in the area of AI that is also right on the doorstep as well. We're already seeing that, where I know ministers who have been impersonated, that they did not do the content, and people are putting it out there in their name, using their voice and their identity. We must have some guidelines, some federal guidelines to stop the misuse of AI, to stop the misuse of social media that's being used to destroy and disparage people's lives. The other one is Federal Reserve's digital dollar project. That right there just sounds scary almost all by itself, right? And while not a formal bill yet, the Fed's development of a central bank digital currency is moving forward. With pilot programs and policy briefings, we saw this all started in the Biden administration, but they're already underway in 2025. What's the risk of that? A programmable currency means the government could someday track, limit, or even block your transactions based on your beliefs or behavior. If you think that's far-fetched, look at China's social credit system and how digital currencies are used there to control speech and lifestyle. Again, if we're going to have these types of things, there has to be such strong protections that would keep the federal government from ever being able to control your speech, your lifestyle, your faith, what you spend your money for. We need to push for legislation that bans government control over digital spending before it becomes law. And so we don't start with digital currency and then have all the fallout and all the issues. Instead, it needs to be a well thought out plan, and there needs to be protections that cannot be removed that would protect you and I from ever having ourselves censored by the federal government. And we already saw this happening during the Biden administration with banking. We saw those who pushed agendas that they believed were right, their bank accounts being frozen. We saw situations where currencies and banking, all types of things, the precursors to that without a digital currency. So could you imagine with a digital currency? Number 4 is the Secure the Border Act of 2025, H.R. 2. This bill resumes border wall construction, ends catch and release, and mandates E-Verify to stop illegal hiring. It also defunds sanctuary cities and restores enforcement policies weakened under previous administrations. While critics call it harsh, it reflects biblical principles of law, order, boundaries, national accountability. And as Christians, we support compassion, but not chaos. The Equality Act, still under consideration in Senate bill. I have gone through this one ever since I've been doing Drenda On Guard. We've talked about the Equality Act. And this bill is there's still those that want to see a redefining of sex to include gender identity and sexual orientation in all areas of federal civil rights law. This sounds inclusive, but it would force Christian schools, churches, and business owners to violate their convictions or face lawsuits. It also threatens women's sports, religious hiring protections, and parental rights in gender-related medical decisions. This bill is spiritual warfare, cloaked in civil rights language, and it must be opposed. We've talked about this so much, and I'm thankful for the big, beautiful bill because it did set a lot of these things we're talking about in these bills in place, but we need these laws to be really put into place to protect these in the future because as we've seen changes of administration, lots of changes happen, and so we need these to be passed. Every one of these laws touches core issues of faith, family, and freedom. We cannot afford to sit back or stay silent. You know, we all talk about fighting, and I wrote the book Fight Like Heaven, but when the fight comes, what I'm seeing is Christians cower and run the other way if it personally impacts them in any way negatively. That is not fighting the good fight of faith. That is cowardice. We should be engaged in the government mountain. We should know what's going on. We should take the time to call representatives. We should be aware of what laws are being passed that might impact our future of faith or raising our children under the nurture and the admonition of the Lord, protecting our Christian schools, protecting the voice of the church from all kinds of attacks and evil that's trying to silence churches, harm people, and create lies through social media that destroy, that kill, steal, and destroy. We know who's behind that. We need to pray for truth to prevail. Most of all, keep your eyes open. And when the battle comes to your door, don't run. Instead, stand on what God's Word says. I'm Drenda. Stay alert, stay informed, and stay on guard. Until next time, we'll see you then.